What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Astera Labs. Just dropped their earnings Monday. I want to go over some of the absolute key highlights that you need to kind of take away from the earnings. Aside from that, go over some of the data points and just where things might be going from here. Before we get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So when it comes to their earnings, they did drop it on the 10th. They did beat on both earnings per share and revenue, did cause them to go up roughly around 1.97%. Of course, encumbering their earnings. Today it's pulling back slightly due to other concerns, but basically the implied move was 16.72%. So definitely was on the timid end. So again, that's maybe a good thing possibly. So last earnings, one day after their earnings, it went up 37.7%. So ultimately, like I said, a little bit on the timid end. Shorts right now, though, are increasing 90,000 shares. 6.45% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 7.32 million shares. So leading into their earnings, shorts were really increasing. So I think they were rather doubtful about them actually hitting the marks and doing what needs to be done. So again, this is why I like to analyze this type of information. Looking at the options, 14 million in calls, 2.08 in puts. 49% of all the options being done today are optimistic in nature, and there seems to be a consensus for it to be roughly around that $110 range, and that is for this week as well as rolling over into next week. Bears, flip side, they are anticipating for it to be sub roughly $100 to around $95. So still a lot more upside is anticipated. Right now with it at 101 and change, it is trading between this R1 and the pivot. $99 is going to be that next strong support, followed by 109 being the next strong target / resistance. And then the next level up from that is 114. So just take note of some of the strong support and resistance points. Aside from all that fun stuff, these are all the recent ratings. So there was a couple that came out yesterday, the day of their earnings, 130, 125, and then a ton came out today. So 123, 130, 120. The highest ever right now is $150. That was done by Stifel Nicholas. Tor has a 58% success rating. But aside from that, all the analysts compiled together $127.67, and that does represent a 25% upside. So this is your very quick overview of some of the data points, and without further ado, let's get right to the absolute key highlights from their earnings. So give yourself a shout out on the side note if you did buy, if you sold, or if you've been dabbling with options. With that, appreciate all you watching.
Astera Labs projects 2025 revenue growth with $12 billion market opportunity by 2028. Earnings call insights Astera Labs, Q4 2024, management view. Astera Labs reported record Q4 2024 revenue of $141 million, an increase of 25% sequentially and 179% year over year, driven by Aries PCIe retimer and Taurus Ethernet smart cable module product families. CEO Jitendra Mohan highlighted the company's sixth consecutive record-setting quarter for revenue, attributing growth to strong AI connectivity demand and diversification across product families. The company announced that its Scorpio Smart Fabric Switches, launched earlier in 2024, are expected to become its largest product line in the future, addressing the growing AI fabrics market. Continued investment in R&D led to an 80% increase in headcount in 2024, reaching 440 employees, along with a strategic acquisition to bolster foundational connectivity capabilities. CFO Mike Tate reported operating leverage improvements, with non-GAAP operating margin increasing to 34.3%, up from 32.4% in Q3. Outlook. Fiscal Q 2025 revenue is projected at $151 million to $155 million, representing sequential growth of 7% to 10%. Non-GAAP EPS guidance for Q1 2025 is set at 28 cents to 29 cents, with non-GAAP operating expenses expected to range from $66 million to $67 million. The company anticipates continued growth from Aries and Taurus product families, with production ramping for Scorpio switches and pre-production shipments of 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗖𝗧 products. CEO Jitendra Mohan stated that 2025 will be a breakout year, with revenue contributions from all four product families. Financial results. Q4 2024 non-GAAP gross margin was 74.1%, slightly down due to a product mix shift towards hardware-based solutions. Non-GAAP operating expenses grew to $56.2 million, driven by R&D investments and the impact of a recent acquisition. Non-GAAP diluted EPS was 37 cents, with cash flow from operating activities reaching $39.7 million. The company ended the quarter with $914 million in cash, cash equivalents, and marketable securities. 𝗪𝗓𝗧𝗛, JP Morgan, asked about the mix of merchant GPU versus ASIC-based systems. Jitendra Mohan explained that internal AI accelerator programs are ramping faster, with contributions from both merchant GPUs and internal ASICs expected to grow in 2025. Blaine Curtis, Jefferies, inquired about gross margin dynamics. Mike Tate noted consistency in gross margins for Q1 and Q2 2025 at around 74%, with potential trends towards the long-term model of 70% as the product mix evolves. Joe Moore, Morgan Stanley, asked about Scorpio momentum. Sanjay Gajendra highlighted design wins for both P-Series and X-Series switches, with X-Series expected to contribute in the second half of 2025. Sentiment analysis. Analysts maintained a positive tone, focusing on the strong revenue growth and future product ramp opportunities, though some questions explored gross margin pressures. Management displayed confidence during prepared remarks, with Mohan asserting a strong market position and growth trajectory. Responses during Q&A were detailed and focused on addressing analyst concerns. Compared to the previous quarter, management's tone showed increased optimism about diversification and expanded product offerings. Quarter-over-quarter comparison. Revenue increased from $113 million in Q3 to $141 million in Q4, with a notable rise in contributions from Taurus and Aries product families. Gross margin decreased slightly from 77.8% in Q3 to 74.1% in Q4, attributed to a product mix shift. EPS improved from 23 in Q3 to 37 in Q4, reflecting strong operating leverage and a tax benefit adjustment. Analyst questions this quarter showed greater interest in diversification and Scorpio's potential, compared to last quarter's focus on initial product ramps. Risks and concerns. Increased R&D and operational expenses may impact margins as the company scales its product portfolio. Dependence on hyperscaler customers poses concentration risks. Though management emphasized efforts to diversify revenue streams, competitive pressures in the Scorpio product line, particularly from established players, were acknowledged by management. Final takeaway. Astera Labs concluded 2024 with record-breaking revenue and accelerated growth across its product lines. The launch of Scorpio Smart Fabric Switches and expansion into AI connectivity solutions position the company for robust growth in 2025, targeting a $12 billion market opportunity by 2028. With strong guidance for Q1 2025 and a focus on innovation, the company appears well-placed to capture increasing demand in the AI and cloud infrastructure markets.